Well, welcome to Thrive Market. It's great to have you guys here. Really excited to give you guys a tour and love the work that you guys do in the world. I know we share a lot of values from the core mission of the business in terms of making healthy living easy and affordable. And I'll just give you guys a quick little tour here. We had one employee working on my house 4 years ago, and so there's 700 of us today. So it's been an incredible journey. You can see the employee wall here. The business actually came from my stepfather, who was running a food co-op out of a little hippie commune out of an organic farm in Ojai. And so got to see firsthand the power of food buying as a way to make food more affordable, and always thought, like, why isn't there kind of a 21st century mainstream version of that that's still aspirational and true to the values but more accessible to everybody. So that's kind of just gives you a flavor of the meteoric rise. This was our first office warehouse space. So this was a 5,000 square foot facility that we had that was doubled as an office and a warehouse location. And this is the original team, and the growth was so explosive that we had 2 40-foot shipping containers in the parking lot, and we were pick-packing and shipping 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it was really regular. At 3 in the morning, we'd be out there packing. We got complaints from all the neighbors because we had trash, cardboard piled to the ceiling. I mean, it was like a war zone. This crew obviously grew very, very quickly, and this was the first employee. He's kind of buried here. Worked at my house.
Put the first employee in the back.
No, totally unemployment. He's actually still here. He leads culture, leads really employee enthusiasm. He's been an amazing. He's just been so willing to do so many different roles because we've all had to do that as the business has grown. This was our first kind of industrial warehouse. It's a 30,000 square foot warehouse that we got. We thought this was going to last us like 2 years, and it lasted us 3 months. So it's just been like absolutely meteoric. And then this was the first automation and conveyance that we put into one of our 400,000 square foot facilities. So we have a 400,000 square foot space in Indiana and then a 370,000 square foot space in Reno. And we actually were the first e-commerce company to go zero waste from our distribution centers to landfill. We just did that at the end of last year. So it's all 100% post-consumer recycled packaging. It's freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time. We're doing a whole white paper, share all of that with other companies so they can learn from our lessons, our mistakes, and just really up the game. I'll show you guys the gym real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
It's a very kind of open millennial startup workplace culture. Everybody, there's no vacation schedule. People come and go. It's really, for us, it's all about performance, positivity, and really having a positive culture for the brand. We very much view culture as the internal facing aspect of the brand. And so it's a way for us to really represent our values that we espouse in the world. So that's why we have a gym, we have showers, there's active yoga classes, we do meditation several times a week, we run a food program for everybody. It's kind of just part of how we think about really making that true for everybody. I'll give you guys a little tour of our product development side here.
Timing.
Yeah.
Thing with Paul, if we can.
There's a way. Well, I got some other ideas. Cut some stuff in. Yeah, I got some ideas, especially with what we're talking about.
So we started all with third-party brands to begin with, but then at the beginning of last year made a huge push into our own branded products, which has been really valuable for us for a number of different reasons. Most of the time we'll do it because we're trying to increase quality and or really drive the right type of pricing that we know our community wants. And in every case, we improve the supply chain. For example, like in this bone broth, we went to a grass-fed, high-quality premium jerky provider and said, hey, can we take your whole animal to have a closed-loop system to make a nutrient-dense bone broth from something that you would consider a waste, and let us make this, really high-quality product. Right. And so that's, that just kind of gives you a little insight in terms of how we think about it. Like for example, our almond butter. The leading nut butter on the market is got palm oil, and palm oil is one of the largest drivers of rainforest destruction. So we had a revolutionary idea to make almond butter from a single ingredient, which is almonds. Strange. It's very, very strange. And it's the same thing with our non-dairy milks. No stabilizers, nothing. We think the consumer can shake the bottle and pour themselves some almond milk. So it's, you know, it's like little twists like that. Even coffee, like we couldn't find a fair trade third-party coffee that we could get at the right pricing structure that we knew our members would be looking for. And so, you know, we vertically integrated, you know, fair trade certified sourcing on the coffee. You know, we've got great B-roll footage of that if you guys want any of it. And then then part of our whole value proposition is really more than just being an e-commerce platform. It's really about providing educational content. So, you know, we'll do content around, you know, did you know that conventional coffee is made with near slave labor conditions? And you know, 40% of pickers in Honduras during the picking season are children, and there's often armed guards, and they harass you if you don't pick quick enough, and you have to pick, you know, 300 pounds of coffee just to qualify for your $3 a day salary. So that's part of our mandate as a business is, you know, not only do we want to create just amazing products, but we want to be really educating and advocating for really clean supply chains. And that goes across the board, you know, whether it's diapers or cleaning products that are, you know, that don't have hormone and endocrine disruptors in them. This is a kitchen where a lot of our magic happens in terms of video content, educational courses. You know, this will get produced here, syndicated to, you know, our 5 million users on the platform, and then gets shared, you know, through a bunch of omni-channel platforms. So, you know, this is the floor plan, really open. We try to keep it that way on purpose. You know, our mission as a business is right there. It's obvious for everybody. It makes it really clear every day, all day long, why we're here.
We've got new metrics right here,
and
that mission, that's
right
fucking
there.
awesome.
And really, you know, this mission has been, I mean, it's something that's really important to me. You know, I grew up really poor with a single mom, and but it's something that's important to everybody, and it's given us so many unquantifiable virtuous cycles by having such a clearly identified social mission that people can identify with. We get so much more from people than just treating it as a 9-to-5 job. And you know, that's, you know, because frankly, I think the biggest thing that we've struggled with is in the course of super intense growth, how do we make sure that we really invest in the culture effectively and make sure that everybody's working together well in the sandbox? And the truth is, people come from an incredibly intelligent group of people, but comes from a very, you know, corporate culture is very competitive, and so there's a lot of politics and games that happen. And so it's been a real process for us to creating an environment that's still super performance driven, but also lets people really let their guard down. Like, hey, it's not about being right; it's about getting it right together.
Yeah.
And frankly, that has been the single biggest challenge that we've had is how do we grow as founders ourselves to facilitate those processes, and then how do we really create those processes so that the leaders can then really imbue that with their departments and that there's real effectiveness across the organization. Part of that's just like simple stuff like our clean program. This is one of my co-founders' office here. My office is right there. So, you know, one of the ways that we make those kinds of investments is also a food program. The hippie economy that I grew up on, we have a big wooden table and everybody eats together, and it's just a really powerful way for people to break metaphorical bread and be in relationship. And so this is our version of the water cooler. So we run a food program. We have great, you know, food at breakfast, great smoothies, all that jazz, and then you know, people we will typically serve a nice lunch. And then there's, you know, great food and snacks. I'm going to show you guys a couple products I'm super excited about. Just came out. This is actually paleo-friendly, low-glycemic sprouter granola. It's like my favorite. I'm biased, but like I spent 6 months. It's literally my favorite granola in the market. If you guys want to take, you guys can take. You know, I just like it for snacking. But it's, you know, it's a super legit woman that, like, the supply chains are, you know, just incredible. So that's kind of a quick tour. There's a lot more that we could do, but you know, probably get into it, right?
Let's do it.
Does that work?
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Doug Larson, Anders Varner, and we came up here to, are we in Venice Beach? Or
Marina
Marina Del Rey,
Yeah.
up here in LA, and we dropped into Thrive Market to hang out with Gunnar Lovelace, the founder, co-founder of Thrive Market, and I'm really looking forward to finding out exactly what it is that why you started this thing in the first place and what exactly it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you guys here, and I don't think I've ever been interviewed standing up by three people at the same time. So this is a first.
Whole new experience.
Whole new experience.
It's gonna take you at least a week to digest.
Yeah.
What happens?
Hopefully,
next.
hopefully I'm not that backed up.
Yeah.
So do you want me to kind of get into the high level?
Yeah. You know what? I'm curious as to why it is that why did you start Thrive Market? And I mean, I met you a few years ago at PaleoFX, and when you told me what you were up to, it sounded really fucking cool. And you took it really far so far. And I want people to know
Cool.
what it is,
Yes.
why you did it in the first place.
Yeah, so I mean, it comes from a very personal place. A lot of survival trauma for me early on as a child, growing up a single mother, seeing how hard she worked to make healthy choices, and it always seemed crazy to me that food with lots of chemicals and processing costs less than food with no chemicals and processing. Like that's like the sky is down and the earth is up.
Right.
And as I mentioned, we did a little tour. My mother remarried, and my stepfather was running a little food co-op out of a hippie commune. And so I got to see firsthand like all the wacky stuff coming out of the organic industry. But also notice how expensive it was and how much lower prices could be when people bought together. And so as I went on in my own entrepreneurial career, I always felt like there was an opportunity to disrupt access to healthy living, and that, just transparently, I've been looking for an organizing principle that brings people to at scale together around common good my whole life. And I love the conversation around food and health because it's so accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter what your color is, what you believe, where you live. People want to feel good in their bodies, and they want the same thing for their children. And so, having been going to Expo West for 15 years and knowing a lot of the founders in the space and really admiring a lot of the socially conscious businesses that were kind of emerging out of the organic industry, I felt like there was a real opportunity for us to disrupt access to that. And so what we do at its very core is we sell organic and non-GMO groceries at the same price as conventional equivalents for the first time in history, shipped to your home for free in eco-friendly packaging. And that's done through a membership model. So the traditional retailer will mark up their products a lot, and the products are bought through a bunch of middlemen in the supply chain. You've got your farmer, your co-packer, your brand, your brokers, your distributors, your retails, all the markup that happens in that process, which causes prices to be a lot more expensive than they necessarily need to be.
Yeah.
And
So is this similar to what Costco does?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
we're a socially conscious version of Costco online, where you can buy online all of these products that you would get at a normal health food store, but at lower prices than you get at Whole Foods or other types of channels.
Yeah, this is beautiful
Yeah.
because I've been coaching people for my whole life, and one of the biggest, I've encouraged people to eat really well, eat clean. When organic became a thing, it was like you should be eating organic, and these are all the reasons why. I mean, I think it'd be good to dive into that, why organic and non-GMO is actually a good idea. And the pushback is always, it's so expensive.
That's right.
And
Or you can't get it because it's not near you.
yeah, not near you. I mean, Doug and I were living in Memphis, Tennessee, years ago, and finding great food was a challenge. I remember when Whole Foods came in, and if I wasn't there on Sunday morning for the farmers market, I was screwed. It was like I don't have the food, access to the food. And moving to the West Coast actually made it. I found it way easier to eat really clean and healthy. It wasn't a challenge anymore. But for the majority of people that are watching, listening to the show, that's not, their case is they don't have access to really great food.
That's right. Yeah, and then access is, as you guys know, it's really also an educational component too. So that's the beauty of what you guys do and the community that you have. You're educators. So it's one thing is to be able to access the products themselves. It's another thing to be able to afford them, and then it's another thing to even know why it matters. And so that's a core part of our thesis is that, you know, we're an aspirational brand experience that's selling these previously premium products for less, combined with the social mission and educational content that informs and inspires people. So, you know, our model, instead of making money on the product sales, we charge a $60 a year membership. We break even on the product sales, and then for every paid membership, we'll give a membership away to a family in need.
How do you guys go about, if I turn on Netflix right now, there's probably 75 documentaries talking about how corrupt and crooked and bad labor policies that are going on in the food industry. You guys have seemed to have risen above that. How does that story go with building trust with and relationships with your clients? Because that model that you guys have set up, that really is the education piece that pushes Thrive forward.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the good news, as you pointed out, is the consumer is increasingly aware of and wanting to know more about that. And I think that's actually really driven by, you know, in the face of intense political dysfunction, we recognize the place that we have real power is voting with our dollars. And we want to support businesses that, yes, they serve our self-interest for getting us whatever it is we need at the best price possible, at the highest quality, but we also want to be able to support businesses that represent our values. And food is one of those places, you know, and so I think the great thing is that there are all these documentaries coming out, and there are communities like yourselves that are educating people about, you know, pay attention, like, you know, how many serving size. Yeah, maybe there's only 3 grams of sugar, but there's 30 servings in the thing, you know, like little tricks like that are being done all the time. And so the consumer is getting more sophisticated. And so I think that's a great thing. You know, for us in the market, you know, we're definitely positioned to really serve a really broad audience, which is really borne out by who our members are. You know, 50% of our members are in the Midwest and the South. This is not a bi-coastal phenomenon, which I'm really excited about.
Those are likely the areas where it's hard to find stuff like this, I would think.
Hard to find and newer to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend just last week, childhood friend, texting me. He lives in St. Louis, and he says, "My wife and I just decided to go paleo. How do you do it?"
That's right.
and I said, "Well, being in St. Louis, you know, you've got some hoops to jump through, and check out Thrive Market."
Yeah.
You know, I was like, "Hey, man, I got a discount code for you and everything."
Discount code.
We might share the discount code with everybody else. We'll see.
Stay tuned.
See what happens. Yeah, so I think that's really, you know, so it is really hard to verify. You know, we've had brands that represented things to us, and then we found out after the fact, and we had to pull them off, even when they're like top-selling brands. So you get this dynamic tension in any business when you've got a social mission. Like, where does that line draw? And that's a you know, as a small startup, you know, those are difficult decisions.
What is that process? What is that process on? How do you guys decide? Hey, this brand is no longer in line with this culture that we're creating or the social mission. Where do you guys got to draw that line? Because you are a business, you do have to produce the revenues, but there's also this other side of this social venture that you guys are on.
Yeah. So I think at the core, we believe that the brand is the most valuable asset that we have. And so if the trust isn't there, if we're doing something that we feel like is going to be exposed later as a clear hypocrisy, like, we're going to make whatever decision we need to do to really protect the integrity of our trust with our members.
Yeah.
So that's first and foremost. Like, it's just that's the way we think about it. And we're willing to take the hit to maintain and preserve that and grow it. That said, like, it's hard. I mean, the supply chain of laundry versus, like, you know, a power bar. I mean, these things are like super complex global phenomena at this point. And so, you know, our one of the first hires we made, he's our senior vice president of product development. You know, he ran all of Whole Body for Whole Foods for 7 years. You know, $1.5 billion annual division. He led their whole product development. You know, this is a very, very experienced entrepreneur in that particular industry. And so, you know, there are things you look for. You know, what are the types of certifications that a co-packer has? What's the fair trade supply chain look like with a partner that we're, you know? So there's like things like that. That said, we don't get it perfect all the time, and you know, we end up making some mistakes, and then we have to clean it up, and then that's just part of the iterative process.
It seems that high-quality food delivered at lower prices than you can find most other places would be much easier to do once you've hit a certain level of scale, because you have enough volume to get good prices on things. Like, how does the business look now versus how it looked when you were, you know, 10 people? And how did you deliver on that when you were so small?
We were to your point, we lost a lot of money on every sale when we were small. That was just that was our strategy. We went for a growth strategy, and we knew that our model worked at a certain measure of scale, and we're hitting that scale now. So our pricing structures are really starting to work across the business. And that was really difficult to do because we were rejected by all the top VC firms when my co-founder Nick and I were doing the roadshow, San Francisco, LA, New York. Like ubiquitously, every single one rejected us, and so it meant that we had to be really scrappy and really it was touch and go. But ultimately, it was the best thing ever being rejected by all the VC firms because we brought in over 150 mega bloggers as investors in the business. So the first $10 million we raised all was influencers like yourselves who heard from their communities, we want to live the lifestyle, but we can't afford to do it, or we're not near a health food store. And so that really trained us on this idea as content is marketing and marketing is content, and as a way to really build trust in a time where people don't trust their traditional sources.
Yeah.
So
what is the problem with a lot of traditional sources? I mean, because this is not something that was necessary 100, 200, 300 years ago. And there's a new emergence of industrialized food. I think most people listening already understand that there's a huge problem with our current food system, but I'm sure you have. Can you lay it out for people who may not be initiated?
Sure. I mean, to your point, there's so many different ways of approaching that. But 100 years ago, like you illustrated, everything was organic, right? I mean, that's just the way the world was. And so the idea now that conventional is the baseline, and you've got massive amounts of chemical fertilizers made from hydrocarbons that are being put into soils to build to have this very unsustainable system. So I think from my perspective, and I totally welcome feedback on this. I think the core challenge is that we've now got 7.5 billion of us on the planet. For the vast majority of our species, it was less than 1 billion of us, and then with the birth of agriculture, you suddenly have this new capability to produce food at a higher quantity from a very localized area on a consistent basis. And so that gives birth to modern civilization and trade and business and arts and language and all the things that we love, and also all of our hopes and fears. But it also allows for our population to explode. So birth of Jesus Christ, about 1 billion of us on the planet. You go, and that's after 185,000 years on the planet. Then you go to World War II, suddenly you got 2.5 billion people on the planet, and then you fast forward another 70 years to present day, we're at 7.5 billion people on the planet. So that's a real challenge, just structurally, just from a pure sustainability dynamic. And every major ecosystem now is either on the verge of collapse or is collapsing, and a lot of that is driven by the way we produce, distribute, and consume our food.
Yeah, a lot of the strategy that's been used up to this point, last 100 years or longer, is just extract the resources out of the ground, and the nature will figure it out.
That's right.
And it's just we've broken that feedback loop.
Yeah.
And so I think some dots that people don't tend to connect just yet, but over time people will be connecting these dots, which is if the land is fucked up and the natural feedback loops are fucked up, that means the food we're eating is going to it's not going to have the nutrients we need to be fit, to be healthy. And it's getting more and more challenging. And I actually think that's why there's a huge emergence in the supplement industry, is because you have all these, you're eating food that's devoid of nutrition. So now the supplement industry is just skyrocketing because now we're trying to plug holes. And, you're going to be able to plug some holes, but I mean, we're discovering more new stuff all the time that's not. We're like, oh, your body needs this. We didn't even know that existed 5 years ago. So we're making all these new discoveries. It's like, well, if you were just getting if you had sustainable agricultural processes, this wouldn't even be a problem.
Yeah.
So as we go forward, we have to think about the sustainability of our resources and how to get and think about the ecosystem as things go on, and consider ourselves as part of that ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think you hit on amazing themes there. I mean, the truth is that the costs that we pay today for the products we consume don't reflect the real costs of those products. Sure. And that's what you're hitting on. What chemicals are released when making my jeans? I buy meat that's grown from land that's been deforested. So these are the types of things that we're now, with the internet and the transparency that's starting to come into the system, we have an opportunity and, frankly, a responsibility to educate ourselves and empower ourselves.
Can you actually expand on that a little bit? A lot of people might not have really took in what you just said about the price you pay for food isn't the full cost of that food. Can you go into more detail there?
Yeah, so just thinking about the meat industry, for example, which is an area that we're focusing on really intensely, and we have some amazing stuff that we're doing that we're about to release there. And so we've been studying, like I have a PhD researcher just helping us understand how does the meat industry work today. And you've got, a big player like mega meat producer Smithfield Farms, that's now, Hog Farm in North Carolina. They have all these exploitive contracts with farmers. They've got, it's a Chinese-owned company. They're getting hundreds of millions of dollars a year in agricultural subsidies that make their products artificially cheap, and that's being funded by us as taxpayers. So, you've got a taxpayer that's funding this distortionary corporate welfare that makes extra profits for a company, and then the taxpayer is then picking up environmental cleanup costs because of dead oceans, and it's picking up health costs because people are getting sick. So this is the state of our kind of crony capitalist system, and I think the power that we have now is moving so quickly with this voting with our dollars that it used to be that, say, in the 50s and the 60s, the government actually could work somewhat functionally and pass legislation like Clean Water Act or Clean Air Act. Like, you had Republicans and Democrats actually able to come together and make those types of decisions. That just doesn't happen anymore. That was previously top down. Now it's bottom up. And I think that's the power of what you guys do, is like you're out there educating, and it's like creating a wave of consumers that are asking for a better way.
I'm really interested in the social conscious side of this thing. So if I go to the store and I want a bell pepper, well, I don't want it to be a GMO pepper. I also want the person that picked that pepper to be paid well. I want the soil to be awesome. Where do you guys start looking for this stuff? When have we gone too far into this social conscious thing? I don't know if there is too far, but how do you guys? There's a give and take on everything, and where does it start? Where does it end? And where is kind of your mission?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There is no like absolute right or wrong way. I mean, this is like the grand human experiment, and so we're asking ourselves constantly as a business, how do we do it better? Yeah. And there are times where we're able to do it one way because of where we're at as a business, and then that's continued to evolve. For example, the first 2 years of the business, I was on trying to get rid of all the virgin plastic in our packaging. And I just couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't find anything that performed the right way, that had the right pricing. Our margin structures were going to get messed up if we tried to do something, and we were going to have all sorts of returns because something was going to melt because it got heat, and laundry detergent was going to break open and it wasn't going to perform well, and it was going to ruin an order. So we had to make the decision that we're going to use a poly bag to wrap our laundry detergent because we're shipping to people and boxes get knocked around. That really agitated me for a long time. But we've been able to make a really consistent effort to really apply ourselves on that. And I mentioned on the tour, we just became the first e-commerce company to go zero waste from our distribution center to landfill, which means that there's no waste that's going from our DCs to the landfill. And that's like simple stuff, like all the packaging gets palletized and recycled. If the pallets are broken, we make them into firewood, and the employees actually use it as firewood. I mean, just simple things like that just make sure that our distribution centers are really clean.
Yeah.
A question about organic food. I think a lot of people think about things being organic or not organic, and if it's not organic, then there's chemicals and pesticides and all kinds of stuff that you don't want on your food that you're consuming. And if it's organic, then hopefully you're not getting those things, and it's better for you. But is there really actually a spectrum there? It's not black or white, yes or no, good and bad. What does that spectrum look like, and how do you choose if something is organic enough?
Yeah, so I think you got to know your sources. So that's the first thing. As a consumer, we have to just take total responsibility, and we can't assume that anybody, even if they've got an organic label, it might be really highly processed and not be good for the body anyway. So you got all sorts.
There's all kinds of organic gummy bears out there, and you're just well, that doesn't mean it's good for you. Yeah, it just happens to be organic.
So I think
organic and fat free.
Organic vegan Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the best.
Delicious.
Sounds like Burning Man food.
For sure.
So I think the core there is we have to take responsibility. We can point out, and we do as a business, we point out bad actors, but at the end of the day, it's on us. We have to empower ourselves to educate ourselves. The good news is that we can literally go to Google and you type in almost anything, and there's going to be commentary about it, whether it's reviews, what it is. the information is now out. I think it's really hard to keep secrets. And I think that to your point, like, yes, organic is really, really important to the movement. In fact, we're coming out as a business with Patagonia and Dr. Bronner's and others releasing a regenerative organic certified label. It's the new label Beyond Organic, which is all about soils and worker standards. Like, there's a whole new label that we're about to release as an alliance, as part of this coalition that is, you know, what's the next level beyond organic.
Yeah.
So it's implying that the practices used to make this organic food are also sustainable?
Regenerative.
Regenerative.
So
What's the difference there?
So sustainable, just by technical definition, means you sustain where you're at. We've done so much damage to the ecosystems. We actually now need to consciously build our supply chains to have positive externalities instead of negative externalities, which actually make things regenerative, which make them better, which make them healthier. And that's, to the earlier point of the conversation, a lot of that's driven by soil. We don't realize what we're doing to our soil. All carrots are not equal. You know, if you got a carrot that's grown in dead soil with chemical fertilizers, it's just like empty calories.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, when we look at the soil, there's 3 main chemicals we add to it to make things grow faster.
Right.
But we're not replenishing all the other minerals.
That's right.
So it's like we're growing
we're just robbing from future generations. I mean, you know, Bernie Madoff is commonly known as like the purveyor of the largest Ponzi scheme in history. I would say that we're all purveyors of the largest Ponzi scheme in history, and that Ponzi scheme is called capitalism 1.0. And we actually need to really make capitalism 2.0.
Yeah, and I from an when I think about change, how do you get a culture, an entire group of people to make a change? You know, education makes up a piece of that, and that's one of the things that we're doing. But in studying economics, I look at what got us in the trouble in the first place is the economic piece, because not everything is being considered, and people, I think, are driven more by economics than by education. It's like, I may know better, but when I get to the store and I look at my bank account and I look at, you know, these options, I think a lot of times, you know, if I'm not fully convinced, I'm going to go to the cheaper thing.
Yep.
And that's what's driven all these things to be made of corn and things like that.
That's right. Yeah, and the corporate welfare in the system, right? So you've got, you know, this whole shift out of a post-World War II economy where all these, you know, chemical war processes got shifted to, you know, support these kind of industrial farming practices that just caused us to go down this, you know, really distorted way of producing food.
Yeah.
I think that you know, there's just so many ways to tackle the conversation, and the good news is it's happening really quickly, and I think that the bad news is it needs to happen faster.
Yeah.
So we mentioned organic. You also mentioned GMO foods. What really is the problem with something being genetically modified, and why should we be avoiding those foods in the first place?
Let's take a break and then we'll jump into GMOs.
Sounds good.
Be good.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching the show. If you'd like to learn more about how to improve your snatch, clean, and jerk, we have a free 55-page ebook you can get at flightweightlifting.com. It has sample programming specifically for weightlifting, weightlifting how-to technique videos, and other tips on how to improve all of your lifts. Go to flightweightlifting.com and you can download that ebook for free.
Download it now. All right, and we're back with Gunnar Lovelace of Thrive Market. And actually, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you guys get a special gift, which is if you go to thrivemarket.com/shrugged, you're going to get $60 worth of free groceries and
free shipping.
Free shipping for the first 30 days. I've been a member of Thrive Market for 2 years now. My wife and I have been getting all sorts of products from you guys that that we can't find in the grocery store, or it's just cheaper, or we find a much better brand, or it's something where I'm like, I don't know if I can trust this, and I know that I can just go to Thrive Market and I can trust whatever it is that you guys are selling is something that's going to be good for my body.
Thank you. Yeah. So you go to the thrivemarket.com/shrugged, and you'll get the first month of free trial. You'll get free shipping, and you'll get $60 of grocery credits off your first 3 orders. And the way we are a membership community, so that's how we make our money. And so the membership won't be charged until the 30-day period. So you get to make as many orders as you want during those 30 days. And you'll get your groceries delivered conveniently to your home. And then at the end of those 30 days, you get charged a $60 membership.
I'm going to buy a year's worth of almond butter.
Exactly.
Coffee.
Yeah.
And what else?
Ghee.
Ghee and mayonnaise. Yeah.
Primal Kitchen avocado mayonnaise.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. That's what actually, I buy actually.
We were making
Saw Mark the other day.
We were making our own mayonnaise. My wife makes amazing mayonnaise actually, so she still makes it sometimes. But we always have the Primal Kitchen mayonnaise there, just in case like it didn't get made.
Mark was our first influencer investor, so we spent 3 hours at a Starbucks selling him on Thrive Market, which was called Shop Tribe at the point. So it's all sorts of iterations of the business.
Right on. So right before the break, I was asking you about GMOs. So I'll kind of re-ask the question for context. Really, what is the problem with something that's genetically modified, and why should we be avoiding those foods and trying to buy foods that are GMO free?
Yeah. So our position, so first of all, we are the largest retailer in the country that sells exclusively non-GMO groceries. So we've been incredibly fastidious about that. And that hasn't been easy. There are, as I mentioned, there's top-selling brands that said they were non-GMO, and then we found out later that they are, and we had to pull them off.
GMOs seem to be in everything. It's like high fructose corn syrup and hydrogenated oils. It's just everywhere.
Yeah. So I think that is our core position. We're very fastidious about making sure that we don't carry GMOs in our food groceries. That said, we're not inherently against genetically engineering. We've been doing it for thousands of years as a species. It's called natural selection, breeding. It's a slower form of genetic engineering, but it's basically that. I think the problem with genetic engineering today in the food system at scale, the way it's being done, is that we're engineering our food crops to withstand massive amounts of poison. So you've got Roundup ready food crops.
I know the solution.
Roundup ready food crops like corn, soy, cotton, wheat, etc., that are being engineered to withstand massive amounts of poisoning, which is this herbicide which kills the weeds, but the plant survives this incredible poison, but it also absorbs that poison and then ends up in our food stream.
So the plant, so to speak, is okay, but we may not be.
Exactly. And the planet is definitely not okay with it. It's not good. It's completely.
Gets in the water supply and all that.
It kills all the topsoil. Gets in the water streams. There's some studies coming out showing more than 50% of Americans are now testing positive for glyphosate in their urine.
Is that the?
That's Roundup.
That's Roundup.
Oh, wow.
And Roundup, the way it kills insects is it gets in their digestive tract and eats them from the inside out.
Actually don't know the mechanics
what I hear.
Of actually how it works at that level.
Yeah, it really messes up the digestive system. So it's probably messing up our digestive system too.
There is a lot of speculation that all the various types of gluten intolerances and celiac are actually functions of a lot of glyphosate in our intestinal tract.
I definitely think. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of people with really weak digestive systems. These days. I mean, that's like a super common thing to have. It's like, oh, my shit is not coming out right. You have a problem.
That sounds like a problem.
Yeah.
So, but back to your point, it's for us, we're incredibly again, we have become the largest retailer in the country that sells exclusively non-GMO groceries. That said, it's not like we're against it necessarily. We just think it needs to be done slowly and properly. And until it's done that way, in a way that we feel like we can trust and that we feel like it's good for our members, we're not going to have any genetically engineered food on the platform.
When you guys are going out and finding products, I'm holding this organic extra virgin olive oil from Greece. We just got a sweet tour. This place is gorgeous. What does it look like outside of this facility? Who's out finding the best olive oil, and not just locally, but in the world, and bringing it here so that you guys can be the distributors?
Yeah, so we actually go ourselves in a lot of instances. So Nick, my co-founder, and Jeremiah, the head of our product development, they literally were there. It's a third-generation olive farm in Crete. The oldest olive tree in the world, right down the road.
Nice.
And as you know, with olive oil, it's often used with solvents, and the solvents get into the olive oil, or it's cut with vegetable oils.
I just learned about this. I was watching something on honey and realized that they're literally cutting it like drugs. Like you're buying a quarter of the honey, yet they're selling you this thing as if it's grown in your backyard by these beautiful bees. No, you just cut that 7 times. There's actually no honey in there whatsoever.
So olive oil has had a lot of controversy around, what is it really olive oil? How's it processed? That's why we're really clear about making sure it was cold pressed, virgin. That way we know that there's no solvents being used in the extraction process. The other one here, and I showed this to you guys on the tour, was, our almond butter. And I was mentioning that, the leading almond butters on the market will use palm oil and sugars. And as we mentioned, palm oil is one of the leading destroyers of rainforest. And so, very simple revolutionary idea that a single ingredient is just almonds. And so that, that's kind of how we think about it, like our coconut oil, like, we're working with incredible fair trade supply chains all over Southeast Asia, just there's, and we don't always get it right. Like we'll find out about something later and we have to like go fix it. These are complex systems.
Yeah, a lot of MCT oil that's out there is palm oil.
That's right.
And that's super problematic.
Yeah.
Just because it destroys a lot of land.
I mean, palm oil is it's just a freight train through the rainforest ecosystems.
Yeah.
And there are technically like certified sustainable palm oil sources, but that's just so like derivative, and I just think that we shouldn't be supporting palm oil, period. It's we carry a little bit of certified sustainable palm oil on the site, but it's not like that's not an area that I'm particularly proud of.
Is there a better substitute for things that palm oil is being used for?
I mean, coconut oil, olive oil, ghee. You just don't need it. Like it's just again, like these, you've got big food companies working in developed countries in developing countries that get all sorts of sweetheart deals for the land and distortionary economic dynamics that cause palm oil to be artificially cheap.
We're talking a lot about food, but we also have these cleaning supplies, and I swear sometimes I walk in my kitchen and it looks like there's a chemistry experiment going on because my wife is trying to figure out how to make this stuff from
scratch,
all the bad information, and put the right things together so we can actually have a clean house and we're not breathing all these toxic fumes in all day. What is a little bit of the story behind how you guys got into, cleaning products?
Yeah. So to your point, like a lot of people don't realize that their home is actually the most toxic environment that they'll be in, and also don't realize that their skin is the largest organ in the body. So you've got, you're applying all of this stuff. There's studies showing out that there's all sorts of respiratory downstream effects from the chemicals we use. You put your baby in a bathtub, the pores of the baby dilate, the baby walks around, absorbs everything from the floor. So there's some real reasons not to use chemicals with hormone and endocrine disruptors and chemical stabilizers and chemical perfumes like this. There's just data around it. Europe has banned over 1,300 chemicals that we only they're all allowed in the U.S. market except for like 4. So that just shows you how powerful these industries are in our particular system. So I think to that end, our whole mission is to empower our members to be able to make healthy living accessible and easy for everybody.
Yeah.
And so, cleaning products are an essential part of that, whether it's the simple act of like, what's your laundry detergent like? And let's use a nice lavender essential oil instead of like some chemical stabilizer.
And it's so easy to get lost in the marketing without having somebody that's saying like, here's the problems, here's a better solution, here's the product that can help you.
That's right.
My wife recently got an app where she can just scan barcodes of the different products in the house.
Yep.
And she just went around the whole house scanning barcodes of like, it's like on a scale of 1 to 10.
Which app was it? Was it EWG Skin Deep or was it?
I don't know.
I'd love to
she
know
was telling me all about it. I was like, you got this handled. Because we actually sat down and had a conversation and said, I pushed it for a little bit and then she pushed back and then she went and met with some women where they were talking about now she's sold on it. So I can't say anything. But no, she gets this app and she goes around the house and she's scanning barcodes and she's just throwing shit away. She's just like, and then she's like, I don't even know if I should throw this away because now where's that going to go? Yeah. This is problematic overall, but let's get it out of the house. So I got out of the house and now she uses an app to scan the barcode of something. It hit her one day. She was putting on makeup and she goes, I don't even know if this is safe. Scan the makeup, terrible. Goes and finds some really natural stuff. You know what's funny? She started using this new makeup, and 2-3 days later, and then she has some makeup that's got probiotics built into it, and her face just started glowing. Like first thing in the morning, she didn't wake up looking tired. She looked bright when she woke up, and it was just from changing the makeup she was using. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, that for us historically, and that's changing with more men coming in the conversation, but 90% of our members have been women historically.
Yeah.
and they tend to be chief of household, like you're talking about.
Totally, she's running it.
And the good news is that is changing. That more men are coming into the conversation, which is great. Obviously, that's part of what you guys do is help
Finally got us in here.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it is interesting for women that a lot of times, even women that are really focused on health and wellness, it's often from the neck down, because of the beauty and makeup. Like that's just been a really hard place for women to make a better choice. We're really excited about being able to offer solutions that are mineral based and other types of things that don't have all of those chemical toxins.
Yeah. Do you have an app? You were started listing off apps. Do you have any apps that you would recommend people use to find out how toxic the chemicals are in their house?
Well, I mean, I like the EWG Skin Deep database. They have an app too, and it's like the largest database of toxic ingredients in all the products we use, both beauty care, personal care, food. So they've got an amazing database, and then I'm biased. Our app is awesome. It's an award-winning app, but it's not explicitly focused on toxicity, but we do have a lot of like content around that so that we help educate people about it.
Nice.
So it seems you guys are doing really, really well right now. You're doing a lot of good in the world. You're growing. You got 700 team members. Like, what does the future look like for you guys? Where are you going next?
It's really a lot of the same. We're just getting warmed up, and the market for food is so big that it's really our core focus is just to stay completely obsessed about our member and just continue to make everything better all the time. So that's how do we make the packaging better? How do we connect the stories of the brands and the people behind those brands to our members better so that they understand what it is that they're supporting? How do we take care of our employees better? These are all the types of questions that we're constantly asking ourselves. I mentioned to you earlier on the tour that the single biggest thing that we've been challenged with is just that rapid growth. You get all sorts of challenges that emerge out of that, and how do you really invest in your people in a way that makes people feel connected and positive and feel like they're part of something greater than just a 9-to-5 job. And that's we've really benefited as a mission-driven business. We benefit from all these positive virtuous cycles from people feeling like they're part of something much greater than just punching in and punching out. That said, like it's in a continuum, and while we've made a lot of mistakes, we've made a lot of progress, we have so many things that we know we can do better, and we're just constantly trying to stay super focused on those things.
And on the tour, you were saying that when you first started, it was all kind of third-party products, but lately you guys have started making all of your own, not all of your own, but many of your own products. What's the story there, and what do you want to do with that?
I think that the thing that we see there is a lot of times there's products where we can't get the right pricing or quality from a third-party partner, and so we'll work to innovate on the supply chain. So I mentioned the bone broth, for example. We went to a grass-fed jerky provider. We were able to use the whole animal to create a nutrient-dense bone broth. Or the coffee example, like we just couldn't get the pricing right. We knew that our members are expecting to get better pricing. It is back to that self-interest issue. Like part of the reason we grow so quickly is people want to be able to get a better price, and they want to be able to have it delivered conveniently to their home. But our core thesis as a business is we want to save you time and money, but connect you to your purchases in a way that make you understand that you're doing good for the world with every single purchase. And so really our own branded product is really just an extension of that basic idea. How do we continue to make it easier, better, more affordable, higher quality, more ethical across the board? And our own product development is a core part of that.
I imagine there's probably supply chain issues and processes that have to go beyond where it is now. But what does fresh food look like? Is that a potential to be able to get meats, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits to people that aren't in California?
Yeah, so it's been obviously, as to your point, it's hugely important, and frankly, it's more important than a lot of the stuff that we sell when you come to like the true nutrient potential and health of a human being. We spent a year doing GPS heat map testing, trying to ship vegetables. It's really hard.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
By the time you factor in the cost of shipping, the shipping cost itself, the packaging, the labor, shipping potatoes and broccoli, like it's impossible.
I think it's a testament too, because you guys do keep such a high quality that it if it's not going to be at that quality, you're not going to sacrifice the brand and sacrifice that piece of it.
Yeah. So the way we've approached that to date has been that we think that the best solution is to get truly nutrient-dense fresh food from a local farmer at a farmer's market, where you're able to interact with your farmers on a local basis, and then get everything else from us. And so that is, I think, the best solution for the food system in general, both for the consumer and for the farmers. You know, it's really important that the local communities are supported, and farmers markets are the epicenter of where that happens. And so, you know, being able to get something that was just harvested the morning before, it's like truly nutrient, hasn't been oxidized for 10 or 15 days. Even if you're buying in California, like the way that the food system works, that could be sitting, you know, on a bunch of intermediary processes for 10 days, oxidizing. And it may look shiny and bright because it's been waxed, but it's basically dead.
Nothing's more frightening than when you walk into the store and everything looks the same, and you're like, I know that's not true. They're telling a story over there that is not true. Like, all those oranges should not be that large or look the exact same.
We're in Vermont, and our friend Joe, who runs a farm there, was saying that the best thing that he can find on his fruits and vegetables are bugs. Because if there's bugs on them, then those bugs didn't get killed by something.
That's right. And bees.
And bees.
Which are a bug, but yeah, definitely. Like, you know, you want your kale to have, you know, critters in it. Like, then you know it's alive, and you know the soil is healthy, and you know that you're getting truly nutrient-dense kale. So that's, you know, but I think, you know, we are studying ways to do things well beyond the core catalog. Including meats and other categories. Awesome. And you know, we could do a whole other discussion about that in a couple months, because there's a whole thing that we're doing there. We don't want to announce it quite yet, but that's a whole great topic of conversation.
We'll be back.
Awesome.
If you guys are, well, I want to mention too, you guys have that app. You mentioned that a little bit, but I'm able to go on that app and just add groceries to my list.
You can. Yeah, it's
I can go in there and
easy.
just like.
Yeah, and it's really easy to reorder your last order, or you can put it on auto ship. I mean, these are consumables. Like, you figure out what it is you want from us, and you can just have it come every month on a consistent basis.
Yeah, instead of me telling my wife, hey, can you put this on the list? I'm just adding it to the app, and it's right there in the cart the whole time. So make sure to go to thrivemarket.com/shrugged. You get a 30-day free trial. $60 worth of groceries. What you say for the first?
Yeah, over your first 3 orders.
Over
so
your first
you
3
get
orders.
$20 off each order for your first 3 orders.
There you go. Anything else to go with that?
And free shipping.
Free shipping.
Yeah.
Free shipping. So definitely do it. Check it out. And where else can? Is there anything else I'm leaving out? Where people need to find Thrive Market?
I mean, you know, we're as you said, the App Store. We have a great blog on our platform. You know, we're really grateful for the work you guys do. It's an amazing time. You know, where there's so many changes going on, and I think that we have this amazing opportunity, working in partnership to really help empower and inspire people to live a better life, and to do that in a humble, authentic way. And I know you guys, that's clearly what you guys embody. So really appreciate you guys coming in, and look forward to being allies for many years.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on and having us up in your place. This has been really good.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And make sure to go over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, positive comments, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that mess, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the show. If you liked the show, which I know you did, please go share it on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever social media channel you happen to be loving at the moment. Pinterest, Twitter,
Tumblr.
Tumblr. Share it on Tumblr.
Do it.